I never thought I would find myself standing in the middle of a lavish wedding hall, watching my ex-wife mock me in front of her high society friends. Gripping my glass until my knuckles turned white, I listened as Rebecca laughed about my simple life like I was nothing more than a bad punchline. She sneered, telling everyone that I was always too basic with my talk of hard work and loyalty, bragging about how she had finally upgraded to a man who could actually provide. The room erupted in laughter as her designer-clad guests nodded, throwing pitying glances in my direction. I clenched my jaw and remained silent. My silence was the only power I had left. Rebecca looked stunning, but that beauty was a mask covering a liar, a cheater, and a master manipulator. Yet something was wrong with the groom. Jason, a wealthy real estate investor whose net worth could buy the venue, was not laughing. He stared at me with a pale, ghost-white face, his hands trembling violently. When Rebecca nudged him, asking if he was okay, Jason completely ignored her. He looked straight at me and muttered that he knew who I was. Rebecca tried to laugh it off, rolling her eyes and mocking me again, but seeing Jason sweating profusely at his temples made her amusement falter. Right there in front of hundreds of guests, Jason turned to her and asked if she had cheated on me with him. A suffocating silence fell over the hall. The music faded, and the laughter died instantly. Rebecca's face froze before she forced another laugh, telling him not to be ridiculous, but the panic in her eyes was unmistakable. Jason demanded the truth, his voice cold, heavy, and demanding. When Rebecca tried to push the conversation away, Jason yanked his arm back from her grip, stating that she had told him we were broken up long before they met. He looked at me, asking if it was true. I answered without hesitation, letting him know she was still very much married to me when she started seeing him. The wedding shattered instantly. Someone dropped a champagne glass, shattering it on the polished floor as Jason stumbled back, realizing the magnitude of her lies. Rebecca's mask slipped off entirely, and she turned her rage on me, screaming, and asking why I was there to ruin her wedding. I did not need to answer, because Jason was already backing away, realizing he was about to marry a complete fraud. Rebecca pleaded with him, begging him not to listen to a bitter ex, but Jason looked at her with pure disgust. He announced to the entire room that the wedding was over because he did not even know who she truly was. Rebecca threw a dramatic, screaming fit in the middle of the hall, but Jason turned his back on her, apologizing to me before walking out. Rebecca's perfect world had completely crumbled around her, and for the first time in years, I felt free. A few days later, I was sitting in a quiet diner when Jason walked in. He looked wrecked, pale, and exhausted, as if he had just emerged from a living nightmare. He asked to sit across from me, his hands shaking as he tapped his fingers against the table. He asked me directly if Rebecca had ever stolen from him. When I told him that she was reckless with money but had never stolen to my knowledge, Jason revealed that she was completely gone and had wiped out over $200,000 from his personal accounts, savings, and investments. After the wedding, she had begged him to let her stay at his house while they sorted things out, and as soon as he let his guard down, she cleaned him out and vanished. Jason was burning with rage, realizing she had likely planned the theft from the beginning. He then pulled out his phone, showing me an address to a property he had bought years ago that Rebecca was never supposed to know about. He had caught a property tax transfer from his account the week prior, realizing she was stupid enough to use that hidden house as a hideout. When he asked if I wanted to go with him, my blood boiled at the thought of her escaping accountability again. I agreed, and we drove to the outskirts of the city to confront her. The upscale house was dark and silent when we arrived. Jason unlocked the front door, and as we stepped inside, we heard faint movements coming from upstairs. We moved quietly up the steps, following the sounds, until Jason shoved open a bedroom door. Rebecca was standing in the center of the room, shoving stacks of stolen cash into a duffel bag. She froze like a cornered criminal, her eyes wide before quickly shifting back to her arrogant, manipulative persona. She tried to play the victim, claiming Jason was acting crazy and following her. When Jason confronted her about stealing his money, she scoffed, claiming she only took what she deserved after being thrown out of her own wedding. I stepped forward, calling out her excuse for robbing him blind. Rebecca spat venom at me, calling me a bitter loser, but I reminded her that she was the one shoving stolen bills into a bag in a house she broke into. She smirked, boasting that she built this lifestyle and would not walk away with nothing. Jason lost control and lunged, grabbing her arm and sending the duffel bag crashing to the floor, scattering cash everywhere. When he threatened to call the police, Rebecca did not flinch. Instead, she taunted him with blackmail, reminding him that she knew enough about his business deals and partners to ruin him if he involved the law. Jason froze, his leverage completely stripped away, as Rebecca smiled in victory. Seeing Jason break, I grabbed the duffel bag, threw it against the wall, and told her she was not walking away with anything. Rebecca sneered, telling me I was pathetic and could not stop her. I looked at Jason and told her that he would stop her. Catching his breath, Jason pulled out his phone and gave her 5 minutes to put every single dollar back into the bag. He warned her that if she refused, he would not call the cops, but rather the kind of dangerous people who would love to know she was holding $200,000 in cash. Rebecca's face drained of color as she realized she had no way out. For the first time in her life, she had lost. Hands shaking, Rebecca bent down and stuffed the scattered money back into the bag while Jason and I watched. Even as she lost, she tried to throw petty insults at both of us, claiming we deserved each other and calling us righteous hypocrites. Jason zipped the bag up, refusing to let her leave with a single cent. Left with no money, no leverage, and no control, she stormed past us and slammed the front door behind her. The silence that followed was peaceful. Jason admitted he was going to marry her and acknowledged how close he came to ruining his life. He thanked me for showing up at the wedding and exposing her, offering to buy me a drink sometime. I left the house and stepped into the cool night air, finally feeling the heavy weight of years of betrayal, lies, and humiliation lift off my shoulders. I got into my car and started the engine, only for my phone to buzz with a text from an unknown number. It was Rebecca, threatening me to watch my back. I shook my head and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. I was not afraid of her games anymore. She had no power, no lies, and no leverage left over me. As I drove down the empty road into the night, I realized I was finally free, leaving her to choke on the ruin of her own making. The morning light broke over the horizon, painting the sky in deep shades of gold and purple as I kept driving away from the city. For the first time in years, the silence inside my car didn't feel lonely. It felt like victory. My mind raced back to all those quiet, desperate nights when I was married to Rebecca, constantly walking on eggshells, wondering why nothing I ever did was enough for her. I remembered the endless credit card bills, the secret phone calls, the late nights she blamed on work, and the soul-crushing way she made me feel like I was the failure. I had believed her lies for so long, letting her tear down my self-esteem until I genuinely thought I was worthless without her. Seeing her standing in that unfinished bedroom, terrified and picking up scattered bills from a dusty floor, shattered the myth of her superiority once and for all. She wasn't some untouchable high-society goddess living above the rest of us. She was just a desperate, small-time thief whose clever tricks had finally run out. A few hours later, I pulled into a roadside diner far away from the city to grab a hot cup of coffee. As I sat by the window watching the highway traffic hum past, my phone vibrated again on the table. For a second, my pulse spiked, expecting another desperate threat from Rebecca or a lawyer's notice. But when I flipped the screen over, it was a simple notification from Jason, a photo of the recovered duffel bag sitting safely on his office desk, followed by a short message thanking me again and letting me know his legal team was securing a permanent restraining order against her. I smiled, took a slow sip of my coffee, and typed back a simple note telling him to take care of himself. The past was completely behind me now. The toxic web of deceit, high society fakery, and calculated greed had dissolved into nothingness. I tapped the screen, blocked Rebecca's number permanently, and tossed the phone into my pocket. Sitting there in that quiet diner, feeling the warmth of the sun through the glass, I knew the road ahead was completely mine to build.